I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are playing a ridiculously difficult video game. You're completely stuck on a level, just banging your head against the same wall over and over.
Oh, I hate that feeling, just draining all your resources.
You're right. The timer is ticking down. And you are totally unaware that right next to you, I mean, standing completely still, is a guide character holding the literal cheat code and the map to the rest of the game.
Just waiting to hand it to you.
Exactly. They're waiting to hand you a completely new reality. But because your eyes are hyper-focused on the obstacle directly in front of you, you just, walk right past them.
Yeah, and honestly, you probably feel a version of that in your actual life right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's that very specific sensation where everything on paper looks totally stable. Like you have a roof over your head, your routine is set, you're doing what you're supposed to do.
But underneath it all, there's this low-level hum of anxiety.
Yes, a lingering stress that suggests you're secure, but you're not progressing. You're just stuck.
Because we build these incredibly intricate, comfortable routines, and then we trap ourselves inside them. We optimize our days for survival, which narrows our vision.
Right, you lose that peripheral vision.
Exactly. When you're only looking at the immediate tasks, you miss the people or the opportunities that could fundamentally alter your trajectory. You're playing the game, but missing the underlying mechanics of how it's actually won.
Okay, let's unpack this, because for today's deep dive, we are looking at a translated essay that offers a totally unconventional, honestly kind of jarring diagnosis for that exact feeling.
Yeah, it's a fascinating text.
It's written by Swiffing, edited by Kammerer, and it has this wonderfully straightforward title, Sharing of Some Very Important Common Sense of Life.
Right, common sense. But the premise is anything but common.
Seriously. The mission today is to explore the author's staggering claim that our destinies are not fixed at all, and the cheat codes to change them are constantly crossing our paths.
In the form of what the text calls noble people.
Right. So what exactly is a noble person in this context?
Well, the source text builds this really intricate cosmology right out of the gate. It asserts that gods, Buddhas, celestials, and these noble people, they aren't distant concepts living in the clouds.
They aren't abstract.
No, not at all. They are constantly stepping into our daily lives. They are actively offering us turning points.
But the core argument is that we remain entirely asleep to them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We miss these massive, life-altering opportunities over and over again simply because we lack the cognitive awareness to recognize who or what is standing right in front of us.
And the author actually uses their own biography as the proof of concept for this, which I love because they don't just leave it as some floaty spiritual theory.
Right, they map out their entire life.
Yeah. They identify 3 main factors that change a person's destiny, and they argue that your personality is the most critical variable.
But not personality like being an introvert or an extrovert.
Right. No, it's specifically about whether your personality possesses the capacity to recognize higher beings or noble people when they actually show up in your space.
And the author is incredibly candid about how this played out in their own trajectory. I mean, they pinpoint 5 distinct major turning points in their life.
5 major pivots.
Yeah, and 4 of those pivots were triggered directly by the intervention of noble people. The 5th was related to recognizing a concept they referred to as the greatest creator.
So destiny isn't a passive experience here?
Not at all. It's a collaboration. The universe, or these noble people, offer you an exit ramp from your current reality, but it's entirely up to your awareness to steer onto it.
And the stakes the author lays out for missing those exit ramps are just huge. I mean, They state very clearly that if they hadn't recognized the greatest creator, they wouldn't have become the tour guide they are today.
Right, which is their term for their current role of spiritual and intellectual leadership.
Exactly. And if they had missed the interventions of those 4 noble people, the author says they would just be an old farmer back in their hometown today.
It's 2 completely divergent timelines.
Yeah. One is a life of expansive guidance, and the other is just repetitive manual routine. And the only thing separating them was the simple act of noticing the guides.
So what's really fascinating here is how the text deliberately blurs the boundaries between the divine and the mundane.
I was going to ask about that, because when the author talks about gods, Buddhas, and celestials, are we supposed to take this literally? Like divine beings walking down the street?
Well, the author uses those titles interchangeably with noble people.
Oh.
So a noble person could be a literal otherworldly deity.
Okay.
But they could just as easily be a mentor at your office, a stranger on a train, or, a friend offering an uncomfortable truth.
Just anyone with a higher cognitive ability.
Exactly. Anyone who possesses the wisdom to fundamentally alter your trajectory for the better. The author argues that most of us remain ordinary living beings rather than saints because we get hung up on the packaging.
Oh, like we're waiting for a burning bush.
Right. We're waiting for this cinematic divine intervention, so we completely ignore the quiet coworker handing us life-changing advice.
Wow. So failing to recognize a celestial and failing to recognize a wise mentor yield the exact same tragic result. You remain stuck.
You remain entirely stuck.
So what does this all mean for us on, like, a random Tuesday morning? If these destiny-altering guides are sitting in our offices, why are we so blind to them?
Right. If they're holding the map, why do we refuse to look at it?
Exactly.
Well, the text pivots to a pretty sharp diagnosis of our internal flaws to answer that. The inability to see these guides isn't a problem with your eyesight.
Right.
The author ties it fundamentally to your consciousness, your soul, your understanding, and what they call your realm.
The realm, that's essentially your structural level of existence, right? Like, if your realm is low, your reality is physically and intellectually smaller.
Precisely. The author basically diagnoses our hearts as being way too selfish and our minds as dim and closed.
There's a quote in the text that perfectly captures this mechanism. They write that if your understanding is poor, the sound of water running down mountains is noise.
That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It really is.
Because it illustrates the whole concept of cognitive blockage. Think about the acoustic reality of a mountain stream. The physical sound waves are the same for everyone.
Right. The physics don't change.
Exactly. But to someone with clarity, someone operating in a high realm of understanding, it's music. It represents natural harmony and flow.
But to a person who is agitated.
Yeah, deeply selfish and consumed by their own anxieties. That exact same acoustic input is processed as chaotic, irritating noise.
It's like walking through an art gallery with a blindfold on, you know?
Yeah.
And complaining that it's just a boring, quiet room. The masterpiece is right there, but your realm of perception is completely blocked.
What's fascinating here is that the author argues we are so consumed by material content that we literally did not have the bandwidth to perceive a noble person.
Right. So when a mentor tries to step in and hand you a new destiny, you look at them and just see another physical obstacle in your already busy day.
You view them as an interruption rather than an invitation.
It reminds me of trying to tune an old analog radio. The station broadcasting the symphony is transmitting at full power. The signal is absolutely there.
But your internal dial is locked onto the static.
Exactly. The static of your daily grind, your status, your petty workplace grievances. You literally cannot hear the symphony.
You're walking past the guide character in the video game because your brain categorized them as irrelevant background scenery.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because everything we've discussed so far, eternal souls, high realms, mountain streams, it all feels very ancient and ethereal.
Philosophical, yeah.
But then the author abruptly transitions into explaining how we actually tune that internal radio dial in our physical day-to-day behavior.
And the advice is incredibly specific.
Shockingly modern, honestly.
It really moves rapidly from high spiritual philosophy to very strict behavioral directives. The author outlines exactly what it means to pay attention to a noble person.
What does that look like in practice?
It involves listening carefully, expressing profound gratitude, and having zero doubts when they show you the way. You don't argue. You don't procrastinate. You just execute their advice immediately.
But they go way beyond just, listen carefully. The author explicitly states that when a noble person comes to you, you must stop whatever you are doing, mute your mobile phone, and isolate yourself from the outside world.
Absolute intent.
Right. But then, and this made me stop reading entirely for a second, they state that paying attention means giving likes to their articles in WeChat circles of friends.
It's a massive tonal shift.
It's a complete paradox. We just went from the greatest creator to leaving a thumbs up on a social media app.
Right. It feels a bit jarring.
Are we really supposed to believe that our ultimate spiritual enlightenment is tied to social media etiquette? And wait, didn't they just say to put the phone away to avoid material distraction?
They did, yeah.
Now they want us to use the phone to prove our devotion.
Okay, I know it sounds wild, but if we connect this to the cultural context of the text, the contradiction actually resolves into a brilliant insight.
Really? How so?
You have to understand what WeChat represents, particularly in the context of this translated Chinese essay. WeChat isn't just a casual scrolling app.
Right, it's basically everything over there.
It is the comprehensive digital infrastructure of modern social life in China. And the Circles of Friends feature is a highly curated, intimate digital living room.
Okay.
So giving a like in that ecosystem isn't a passive, mindless double tap. It's a deliberate, public act of alignment. It is literal social currency.
Oh, I see. So it isn't about vanity for the author. It's a literal metric of where you are placing your attention.
Precisely. The smartphone is the ultimate modern manifestation of that material distraction and selfishness. What is the single most common way we ignore the people right in front of us today?
We look down at a screen.
We prioritize a distant digital ego boost over the physical human being right in front of us. The author is highlighting a very specific behavioral failure. If a mentor is sitting across from you offering life-changing wisdom and you're looking at your phone to chat with someone else, you are actively physically rejecting a higher destiny.
You are telling them through your actions that your current stuck reality is more important than the new map they're offering.
Yes, and the WeChat like functions as the digital extension of that attention. If you never offer a like to their writings, you're proving to that noble person that their wisdom hasn't penetrated your consciousness.
You're too busy expressing your own viewpoint to react to theirs.
Exactly. You are too consumed by your own static to acknowledge their symphony. Looking at your phone to ignore a mentor is the modern equivalent of hearing the mountain stream and calling it noise.
That makes so much sense now. So the mechanics of changing your destiny require you to ruthlessly manage your attention, both in the physical room and in the digital sphere.
You mute the phone to listen, but you utilize the digital sphere to demonstrate you've absorbed the teaching.
You have to prove your mind is open. Which is a perfect segue, actually, because the text then expands this entire philosophy beyond one-on-one interactions.
Right, it zooms out.
It takes these rules for treating a noble person and applies them to how we should operate in society at large. And this brings us to what the author identifies as the ultimate destiny killer.
Arrogance.
Arrogance.
The text lays out a fundamental, uncompromising rule for group dynamics. It states that in any group, at any banquet, in any meeting, there is always someone whose cognition is higher than yours.
The guest of honor, they call them.
Right. And your first and most vital task when you enter any space is to identify the highest cognition in the room. Once you find them, your job is simple. Talk less, listen more.
The author drops this beautiful proverb to illustrate why this is so critical. There are mountains beyond mountains, skies above skies, people beyond people, and great masters beyond masters.
It's an urgent reminder of infinite scale.
No matter how smart you think you are, there is always a mountain beyond you. There is always someone operating in a higher realm.
And the danger of ignoring that infinite scale is immense. The author warns that if you express yourself too much around people with higher cognition, all you're doing is exposing the strict boundaries of your own limitations.
You are impressing them. You're broadcasting your ignorance.
Exactly. And if you become complacent in that behavior, the noble people will simply abandon you. They'll take their maps and walk away.
This leads to the concept of sublimation, which is honestly my favorite part of this entire text.
The chemistry metaphor.
Yes. The author says that when you become obsessed with being right, your sublimation is over. In chemistry, sublimation is the process where a solid turns directly into a gas, completely skipping the messy liquid phase.
It's a massive, immediate transformation.
Right. The text is using this as a metaphor for the ultimate upward shift in your destiny. You don't just slowly improve. You instantly elevate to a higher realm.
But arrogance acts as an impenetrable ceiling to that process. The text is chillingly firm on this. It argues that if you insist you are completely right, auspicious lights will no longer shine on you.
Your shape is permanently set.
Yes, what you are right now will rigidly remain exactly the same in the future.
It's the concept of the full cup. If you walk into a room thinking your cup is already full of water, thinking you're completely right, there is zero room for a celestial or noble person to pour anything new into it.
Or, to use a modern example, it's like driving a car with the GPS recalculating. You're lost in a massive city. The noble person is the GPS, offering you a counterintuitive route that bypasses traffic.
But arrogance is looking at the GPS, deciding you know better because you drove there once 5 years ago and just turning the screen off.
Exactly. You've locked yourself into the traffic jam. You capped your own potential because you refuse to accept that a higher cognition had a better route.
That is the ultimate tragedy the text is trying to prevent, isn't it?
It really is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are granted so many opportunities to change our destinies. These mentors, these noble people, they appear right next to us.
But whether we accept their guidance depends entirely on our internal state.
Right. Arrogance literally repels the very forces that could elevate your life. The text concludes with this stark finality. If you are arrogant and obsessed with being right, you are finished.
You are finished. It really doesn't get more direct than that. Your destiny is permanently locked in. You are going to remain the old farmer forever because you refuse to let anyone show you how to be the tour guide.
You chose the static over the symphony.
So bringing this all back to where we started, to you, listening to this right now, to that feeling of having a stable life, but feeling inexplicably stressed and stuck.
Based on Shuefeng's writings, the solution isn't to just grind harder.
Right. You can't force your current routine to yield different results. The question you have to ask yourself tomorrow morning is, how is your internal dial tuned?
Are you treating the people in your life like annoying noise? Or are you recognizing them as the sound of water running down a mountain?
Are you so busy checking your phone, so eager to assert your own opinions, so desperate to be the smartest person in the room that you are completely ignoring the noble people standing right next to you?
They might be frantically waving their arms, trying to hand you the exact cheat code you need.
But you're just staring at the wall. You aren't waiting for your destiny to happen to you. You're just currently failing to notice that it's already trying to have a conversation with you.
It's an incredibly powerful paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It demands radical humility. But, if we take the author's strict rules for group dynamics seriously, this actually raises a really important question.
Oh, a kind of unstated paradox, right?
Yeah, that naturally emerges from the very logic of the text.
So what does this all mean for the end game of this philosophy?
Well, the fundamental rule for sublimation is that you must always find the person with the highest cognition in the room, talk less, and silently learn from them.
You always look for the mountain beyond the mountain.
Exactly. But if we follow that trajectory all the way to its absolute conclusion, what happens when you eventually become the person with the highest cognition in the room?
Oh, wow. You become the peak mountain.
Right. If you have absorbed all this wisdom, if you have successfully sublimated, and now everyone around you is following this exact same rule.
Meaning they've all muted their phones, they're just silently listening to you, never arguing.
Exactly. How does the noble person continue to grow? If the strict prerequisite for elevating your destiny is finding someone smarter than you to listen to, what happens when you reach the absolute top?
Does your spiritual journey simply end?
Or is the ultimate hidden cost of achieving that supreme high cognition just a destiny of profound, uninterrupted, and unchallenged isolation?